A $6,800 bonus. I jumped ship with $10 billion worth of orders and hollowed the company out overnight. Chapter 1. The moment I saw the $6,800 year-end bonus, I was having dinner with the heads of the company's 120 most important partners. When they learned that the person who single-handedly services them all had been handed a mere pittance, the mood around the table turned delicately strange. Meanwhile, my colleagues were carpet-bombing the WhatsApp group with screenshots of the $850,000 bonuses they'd just bagged. I finished the meal in perfect composure. 7 days later my contract expired and I strolled out. The boss's howl almost burst through the phone. Why are they all pulling their money out? 7th day before contract expiration. The banquet was held at Airy, the finest hotel in downtown Riverdale. The crystal chandeliers scattered light like crushed diamonds across every impeccably dressed face. Seated here were the 120 partner directors who control 90% of Initech's revenue. And the person tasked with keeping every single Emory relationship alive was me, Gideon. I moved between tables with a glass in hand, trading pleasantries with every CEO I knew. Many of them had dealt with me since my first day. Our rapport had long since outgrown a simple vendor-client dynamic. Jamie, next year's flagship rollout for our group, only you can quarterback it. Anyone else, I don't trust. Charles, procurement czar at one of the country's best-known conglomerates, clapped my shoulder, earnestness in his eyes. I smiled and dipped my head. Rowan, as long as I'm around, your priorities are mine. Just then my phone vibrated like a jackhammer in my pocket. I excused myself to the restroom and, in an empty corridor bay, lit up the screen. It was the company-wide WhatsApp chat, now drowned in festive red confetti. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, company. The $850,000 year-end bonus is in. Let's smash records again next year. The sender, Natalie, whose main job was to tidy up my project reports and paste her own name on top. Wow. Nat's on fire. Same 15 here. Me too. This company rocks. Sam. Hard work pays. Screenshot after screenshot of $850,000 transfers slapped me across the face in eerie silence. Without changing expression, I flicked past the crimson glare, opened my banking app, and read the fresh line waiting at the top. Amount, $6,800. 00. No random cents, no greeting, just the cold integer, the kind you slip an intern on her last day. I stared at it for a full 10 seconds, no rage, no disappointment. The last spark inside me called hope guttered out, only numb ash remained. I should have known better. Back at the host table the warmth still flowed. I snapped my professional smile back on as if I'd seen nothing. Charles beside me was toasting someone, his elbow brushed my phone. I instinctively woke the screen to pocket it, and the figure 6,800 flashed in his peripheral vision. His brows flickered, almost imperceptibly. Setting his glass down, he asked casually, Jamie, with profits this good, your bonus must be handsome. Judging by the cheering in your group chat? I met his gaze squarely and enunciated 3 words, 6,800. The entire host table was muted as if someone had slapped the pause button. Inside 1 second every voice died. The nearby CEOs had all caught the number. Their faces ran the gamut from shock to disbelief and finally settled into a shared, quietly furious understanding. These men were sharks, they got it without needing subtitles. The one person who kept their year-round supply chains humming 9/10 of the company's lifeline gets pocket change while back-office names they can't even recall pocket $850,000. The implication hung rancid in the air. An awkward, brittle membrane now coated the table, yet I behaved as if blissfully unaware. I lifted my glass, rose, and treated the silence to a courteous smile. Thank you, gentlemen, for your support this year. A toast to you. I tossed back the fiery liquor, letting it scorch down my throat like it might burn away every year of forbearance and fatigue. I steered the conversation toward next year's market roadmap, using sheer expertise to drag the dinner back on script. But the splinter was in, no matter how hard I joked or pitched, an intangible barrier now hovered between us. Clients began exchanging glances, sympathy, indignation, and something that looked like decision. The banquet ended early and limp. Guests filtered out, Charles tarried last. As he passed me he paused. Those eyes that had read countless men bored into mine, and in a voice meant for only us he murmured. Jamie, you've been wronged. This joint isn't worth it. If you ever want to talk, call me. Warmth flared in my chest. I nodded firmly. Avery. When the final guest disappeared, I went home to an empty apartment. For once I didn't crack open the laptop to chase emails. I brewed myself a mug of Dragonwell tea. No anger, no sorrow when you're truly done with something, emotion is a luxury you can't spare. I opened the computer, ignored the inbox, and created a new document titled Handover Checklist. Line after line I typed, process notes, client profiles, project skeletons, everything laid out with surgical clarity. My mind had never felt so sharp. I glanced at the wall calendar. A red ring circled the date 7 days away, beside it 2 small words, contract expiration. My gaze cooled and steadied, the look of a general poised to press the launch button. Finally I opened my phone and scrolled to a headhunter I'd added a month earlier. Back then he'd asked if I was open to jumping ship, I'd answered stable for now. I deleted that line and typed 5 new words, let's have a chat. 2. 6th day before contract expiration. The moment I stepped into the office I walked into air so sticky with joy it felt sugared. Every face glowed with fresh money, people argued over whether to holiday in Europe or lease a convertible. Natalie click-clacked past in candy apple red stilettos, brand name logo splashed across a purse big enough to substitute for a white flag. She parked it on the corner of my desk. Impulse purchase last night, she sighed theatrically. Doesn't even look that good, what do you think, Gideon? I didn't lift my eyes from the handover checklist scrolling down my monitor. It's fine. Her smile twitched, she pivoted and raised her voice. Ladies, to celebrate our windfall I'm treating everyone to top-shelf afternoon tea, order whatever you want. Woohoo! Nat's the best. Morgan. Half the floor swarmed around her, thumbs dancing over phones, laughter rattling like loose marbles in a tin. No one asked if I wanted anything. I might as well have been transparent glass. At 3 p.m. Victor waddled in, trademark beer belly leading the way, face ruddy with triumph. People, listen up. He clapped, silence fell, every gaze worshipful. This year has been record-shattering, and it's all thanks to your relentless hustle. His booming gaze swept Natalie and the other big bonus recipients, approving, proud. I've always said, at Initech we never shortchange anyone who grinds. Keep it up, next year we double those checks again. He painted glittering false promises, yet his shrewd eyes slid past me as if choreographed, as though the rainmaker responsible for 90% of the revenue wasn't even in the people who hustle headcount. Speech done, he waved me over. Gideon, my office. I followed, calm. The door shut, and his grin dialed down to a paternal frown. Look, Gideon, he began, personally handing me a paper cup of water, don't read too much into this year. The company knows exactly how big your contribution is. I held the cup, silent, and let him perform. But understand, your wins ride on the Initech brand. Without our platform, those blue-chip clients wouldn't even know your name. Sure, Natalie's technical chops aren't at your level, but internal coordination, process optimization, those things matter. Credit where credit's due, right? He launched into the gaslighting script he was best at. Your year-end bonus is a little smaller, but it's the result of a comprehensive review. You're still young, keep your eyes on the horizon. Next year, as long as you keep up the momentum, I guarantee your envelope will be the fattest one on the table. I nodded, showing exactly the right mix of gratitude and compliance. I understand, Casey. I'll keep pushing. Victor was obviously thrilled by my reasonableness and docility. In his mind, the most reliable workhorse on the farm had been broken for good. He patted my shoulder. That's the spirit. Work hard and the company won't let you down. When I stepped out of the office I heard muffled giggles from the break room, Natalie and a couple of coworkers. See that? Gideon was born to be a workhorse, grinds the most, gets paid the least, and one false promise from the boss has him eating out of their hand. Exactly. Does he seriously think those clients are loyal to him? It's the company's name on the door. Off the platform he's nobody. Serves him right. Show off makes the rest of us look useless. I walked past the break room without expression and returned to my cubicle. Their vicious words buzzed around me like flies, stirring nothing inside. I opened an encrypted folder. Inside was a 50-page document titled Client. It held more than contact details and contract clauses. It mapped every firm's internal politics, decision-makers' personal tastes, psychological red lines, even which school of VIP's kid attended off-balance sheet gold. The lifeline that kept all 120 Emory accounts breathing. The fruit of several years' labor. Calmly, I selected the core sections, encrypted them into a zip, and uploaded the package to my personal. When the progress bar hit 100%, it felt as if I had slipped off a heavy yoke. Just then Victor strode out of his office, beaming. Big news, everyone. We just locked another flagship rollout. The client specifically asked for our A-team. Gideon, it's yours end-to-end ownership. Let's make it next year's showcase. Every eye in the room landed on me, some jealous, some gloating. I lifted my gaze to Victor's triumphant face and, for the first time, turned him down flat. Sorry, Casey. My voice was quiet but crystal clear. My contract expires in 6 days. I can't guarantee continuity. For the client's sake, you'd better pick someone else. The office fell dead silent. Day 5 to contract expiration. The calm was shattered by a ringing phone. Vance, the firm's oldest, largest client, had a critical bug that froze their entire production line. Tech spent 2 frantic hours and got nowhere. As the nominal account manager, Natalie was screamed at by Vance's IT director until she ran out of "We're on it" slogans and knew nothing else. Finally, the call bypassed the switchboard and hit Victor's cell. The voice on the line was ice. Casey, I don't care what's broken inside your shop. I want Gideon on this. 2 hours, or we walk and legal will be hearing from us. Victor's face turned white. Vance's contract was 20% of annual revenue. Lose them and the firm loses a leg. Sweat pouring, he hustled to my desk, humility dripping off every word. Gideon, emergency. Vance's system is down, please, jump in. The whole room watched, eyes complicated. I asked for nothing, struck no pose, simply closed my laptop. Last item on my job description. I slipped on my headset and remote into Vance's servers. Victor and half of tech formed a silent semicircle behind me. Natalie hovered at the fringe, face alternating green and white, hatred in her eyes. Code scrolled in a blur. 5 years of maintaining their stack let me spot the culprit at once, a sneaky database interface conflict left by an unauthorized patch Vance's own IT had applied. Our engineers couldn't see it because they didn't know the full topology. My fingers flew at it, restart, flush cache every click in flow state. An hour later I pulled off the headset. Done. My phone rang instantly, Vance's director, almost crying with relief. Gideon, you legend. Lines are humming again. Honestly, talent like yours wasted at Initech, find somewhere worthy, man. I smiled. Appreciate it. Jordan. Victor exhaled like he'd been underwater. But the look he gave me held no gratitude, only fear, then resentment. He finally sensed the power an expendable employee could wield. Taylor leaned in and whispered, just loud enough. Casey, doesn't it smell? Tech bangs their heads for hours, he snaps his fingers and it's magic. Smells like blackmail leverage to me. Victor's suspicion crystallized, easier to blame sabotage than admit his own blind spots. His gaze darkened further. I had no patience for their theater. I printed a single document and placed it on Victor's desk. Casey, my handover checklist. Please review and assign an assignee. He flipped through a few pages. It listed the 120 Emory companies, boilerplate contracts, public switchboard numbers, nothing more. No insider maps, no unwritten rituals, no Rolodex of private cells. A document flawless on paper and worthless in practice. Day 4 to contract expiration. Victor appointed Natalie to take my hand over, probably a power play. See, your crown jewels can be handed to whoever I favor. She sailed over with the list like it was a royal decree. All right, Gideon, talk. For every client, quirks, pet phrases, what buttering up works, what landmines to avoid, spill it. Her tone was cross-examination, not knowledge transfer. I opened the checklist and pointed to the first line. Vance, Procurement Director Charles, phone 139 XXXXXX, public record. Contract specs, see Appendix 3. Next. Hold it. She slammed the paper. I want the off-menu stuff. What tea does Charles drink? Where do you take him to dinner? The secrets. I met her eyes, calm. Anything beyond this standardized, company-owned data is personal rapport I built. Not part of the handover obligation. You dash. Crimson raced up her neck. You're sabotaging me. Think you're untouchable because you're leaving? Her shriek ricocheted across the floor. I leaned back, letting the room hear every word. Is there a single sentence in that document you can't read? Or is the material beyond your professional grasp? The dart hit dead center her competence. Her lips quivered, no comeback came. Whispers broke out around us. Some enjoyed Natalie's comeuppance, others thought me arrogant, weaponizing exit freedom. I didn't care. The clock on my screen blinked, 3 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. With the room sliding toward chaos, Victor finally stepped out of his office to pour oil on the water. All right, everyone, we're on the same team here. Let's keep it civil. He cleared his throat, turned to me, and adopted the tone of a scolding uncle. Gideon, show some maturity. Natalie is only doing her job. Share your experience with her. We're all pulling for the good of the company. I looked at Victor's hypocritical face and almost laughed. Casey, I answered calmly, experience isn't something you hand over like a deck of slides. You earn it by solving problems, by talking to people, again and again. My contract obliges me to a handover checklist, not a multi-year private tutoring program. If Natalie can't even break the ice with our clients by herself, I suggest the company reevaluate whether she's qualified for the role. My words cut like a razor, Natalie's pride, Victor's smoothing over, both sliced open in one stroke. Victor's face darkened completely. The office sank into a silence as heavy as wet cement. In that frozen moment my phone gave a soft buzz. I glanced at the screen. Charles had sent me a WhatsApp message. I opened it and found a beautifully designed electronic offer from a company I had never heard of, Value Synergy. My prospective title, Senior Partner. On the salary line was a figure I had never dared to imagine. I locked the phone, lifted my head, and met Victor's sullen stare. Inside I felt a calm I had never known before. This dumpster fire was no longer my problem. 5. The last calendar day before contract expiration. My final day at Initech. I spent the entire morning stripping my cubicle clean. Every personal item went into a cardboard box, every private file on the laptop was shredded and erased. When I finished, only the company-issued laptop and phone remained, the desktop barren, as if I had never existed. Coworkers drifted over in 2s and 3s, mouthing hollow pleasantries. Gideon, wishing you every success. Keep in touch, okay? Their eyes held no regret, only the glee of bystanders waiting for a car crash. In their script I was a one-trick tech hermit who would be chewed up by the real world and come crawling back. Natalie didn't even pretend. Arms folded, she hovered beside me and drawled, well, someone's grown wings. Without the Initech name behind you, let's see how long you can keep strutting in front of clients. I ignored her, simply smiled while sealing the last file box. In the afternoon Victor summoned me for a final chat. He reclined in his outsized leather throne, voice dripping magnanimity. Gideon, your exit stunt was tasteless, but considering your years of service I'll let it slide. The door here is always open. If it doesn't work out there, come back though we'll need to renegotiate terms, of course. He clearly believed this was the greatest favor he could bestow. I offered a polite smile and said nothing. My silence he mistook for remorse and acceptance. At 5:30 sharp, quitting time, I lifted my carton, pressed my thumb to the scanner one last time, and left without a goodbye or a backward glance. Under the collective gaze of pity, ridicule, and indifference, I walked out of the place that had consumed my youth. The winter air slapped me as the glass doors slid apart, yet I had never felt freer. I drew in a deep breath of downtown exhaust-laced freshness, as though a boulder that had camped on my chest for years had finally rolled away. At that moment my pocket vibrated insistently. I pulled out my phone. It was the WhatsApp group I had created the previous week. Group name, Friends. Membership, exactly 120. A fresh message sat at the bottom, sender, Charles. Only 5 words, everyone, the timing is now. A brief hush, then the chat exploded. Got it. Copy. Standing by. See you tomorrow. Finally. A silent oath, row after row. Those 120 corporate leaders from every corner of the country had fused into an unbreakable front. Standing on the crowded sidewalk, watching the messages cascade, I smiled my first genuine smile since the storm began. Casey, Natalie, Initech farewell. No, correct that, goodbye forever. 6. The morning after my exit. Victor strolled in humming, cradling a cup of premium Dragonwell tea, sunlight striping his oily face through the blinds. He felt fantastic. The thorn in his side, Gideon, was gone. Sure, the final week had been unpleasant, but Victor interpreted that as proof of decisive management. A single employee, no big deal. Initech could mint another was whenever it wanted. He sipped, already mapping how to shift Gideon's accounts to Natalie and the other obedient staff. At 9 o'clock sharp his direct line rang Quinn from Luminex, one of the firm's top 10 accounts. Morning, Quinn. I was just about to brief you on our personnel adjustments. Casey, short version, Quinn cut in, voice flat. After internal review we're terminating every active engagement with your company. Legal will email the notice shortly. Victor's grin froze. What do you mean? We've always worked perfectly together. Commercial decision. Not for discussion. Click. Victor sat rigid, receiver against his ear, long after the line went dead. Must be an isolated incident, he told himself, probably turmoil inside Luminex. He summoned Natalie, recounted the call, and ordered, get in touch with him immediately. Soft tone, find out what went wrong, fix it. Natalie dashed back to her desk and dialed Quinn. The call died after one ring. She tried again, straight to decline. Panic climbed her throat as she ran to update Victor. He hadn't finished cursing when another line rang. Ellis from Horizon. Casey, calling to notify you we're pulling the plug. Ellis, why on earth? Commercial decision. Click. Then a third call, a fourth. Each hammer blow landed on Victor's nerves. Clients he had courted for years, all singing the same sterile refrain, immediate termination, no reasons given. When the 10th call ended in identical fashion, Victor told his assistant to print the entire client roster. With a red marker he circled every account that had phoned to defect. The page looked as if it had bled. Every circled name shared a single attribute. Gideon had been their primary architect. Gideon. Victor's first coherent thought, this had to be sabotage. That ingrate was hijacking company clients. Trembling with rage, he grabbed his cell, opened Gideon's contact, thumb hovering over call, desperate to rain curses through the speaker. 7. Before Victor could hit dial, the front desk, sales, legal, every line in the building erupted in a deafening symphony of ringtones. Panic spread like an airborne virus. From 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, those 6 hours became a corporate purgatory for everyone inside Initech. Termination notices drifted in like snowflakes, arriving from every direction. Cancellation emails flooded the legal department's inbox. Cancellation calls kept the receptionist's headset glued to her ear. The LED board that tracked client count began its frantic free fall. From 10 to 30 to 80. Victor lost every shred of composure. He holed up in his office, cell and desk phone taking turns to ring, each caller a familiar name, each sentence an icy death knell. His emotions ricocheted from fury to bewilderment, then to panic, and finally to utter despair. He tried the reps who used to slap his back over rooftop cocktails. Charles at Vance, Quinn at Luminex. Every call either died on impact or rang into eternal nothing. He had been quarantined, ruthlessly cut off by the business universe he lived on. Inside the firm, terror spread like gas in a sealed room. Staff watched the client counter shrink while coworkers whispered, and they knew exactly what was happening. The well-informed were already stealth updating resumes. Natalie was the most frantic after Victor. On paper, every departing client was hers. She stood at the epicenter of the storm, useless. She couldn't reach a single client and spun in circles. When she finally conned a friendly procurement manager into picking up, she cooed and giggled the way she always did, only to expose her ignorance of basic specs before the third sentence cementing the manager's resolve to bail. "You don't even know our core requirements and still expect to keep our business?" The manager iced the sentence and killed the line. Natalie collapsed into her chair, face the color of cold ash. In his own office, Victor, after yet another dial tone, folded into the power throne that once made him feel invincible. Sweat soaked his shirt, he gulped air, pupils swimming in blood-red fear. He grasped the truth far too late: these clients had never come for Initech's logo. Nor had Gideon poached them. They left of their own will. They followed Gideon. That realization terrified him more than bankruptcy. It obliterated his lifelong creed: platform over person. A single human could outweigh an entire platform. The screw he had casually tossed was the lone load-bearing column of the whole tower. By 5:30 quitting time, 115 of the 120 marquee names Gideon had shepherded had vanished from Initech's roster. 8. Victor did not sleep the night after Gideon's exit. Office lights blazed until sunrise. The ashtray became a volcanic crater of butts. Red-eyed, hair wild, he looked like a beast pacing a cage. At 9 a.m. the final judgment arrived. 5 courier envelopes each containing the last 5 prime clients' termination letters landed at reception. All 120 Emory accounts Gideon had nurtured were gone. Not one survived. Those 120 clients had generated 90% of annual revenue. Overnight, Initech flipped from profitable darling to a hollow shell liable only for rent and payroll. Terror clamped Victor's throat. His only thought: find Gideon, drag him back at any cost. Dignity be damned, he stabbed Gideon's private number into his trembling phone again and again. The first call rang out, the second rang out, the third rewarded him with a heartless robot: "The number you have dialed is busy." He had been black-holed. At that moment Gideon sat in Value Synergy's freshly painted conference room. Across from him sat Charles, now his co-founder. A huge screen showed a dozen thumbnails: procurement chiefs from every former Initech flagship client attending the first online shareholders prep meeting, blueprinting the newborn firm's future. Gideon's phone vibrated, he glanced at the familiar digits, face unruffled, thumb flicking decline, then dragging the contact into the blacklist. Inside the meeting, voices crackled with hope and ambition. 50 kilometers away, Initech resembled a mortuary. Unable to reach Gideon, Victor funneled a whole night of fear into rage. He burst from his office and pointed a shaking finger at Natalie and the trembling staff. "Worthless. All of you. What the hell do I even pay you for? Not one client saved." Natalie burst into tears. The rest stared at their shoes, fury swallowed in silence. In that chaos Victor's phone rang. The name on the screen was a life preserver, he dived for it. "Charles. Thank God you picked up." The voice of Vance's Charles slid down the line like Siberian ice. "Casey, I'm only calling to say a few things." A pause. First, be a decent human. Second, be a boss with a conscience. Gideon generated value we could calculate to the cent. You treated him like a disposable mule, credited our loyalty to your damn logo. Treat value creators like weeds and we'll vote with our feet. Remember, Casey, you didn't lose an employee. You lost every shred of trust 120 Emery had in you and your company. Charles severed the call. Trust. The word ripped through Victor's last mental sandbag. His phone slipped, screen exploding on the marble. He stood frozen, knees buckling, body folding to the floor. A raw, animal howl clawed out of his throat and echoed through the tomb-still office. Why? Why did they all pull out? 9. Within a week the firm's cash artery snapped. The news infected every cubicle. Employees who had gloated over their $850,000 year-end bonus laughed at Gideon's exit now panicked. Payroll accounts were empty, next month's salary would not arrive. Desks became flea markets of panic. Natalie and her clique scrambled to spam resumes. Reality slapped them. Industry gossip had already tarred every Initech survivor. HR recruiters labeled them freeloaders, termites, hollow suits. Interview after interview, Natalie faced the same amused smile. So your firm imploded after one key departure. What exactly did you contribute? She had no answer, offers never came. Staff united, cornering Victor, demanding back pay and severance. The man once worshipped as Casey became a curse on their lips. Victor sold office gear, software licenses, then his condo and SUV, trying to plug a bottomless pit. No investor would touch the carcass. Initech was worthless. The once glamorous open plan floor glittered with broken monitors and withered ficus within a fortnight. One weekend afternoon, rejected again, Natalie shuffled the streets like a ghost. A sleek black sedan glided to the curb beside her. The rear window lowered and Gideon looked out, leaner, eyes blazing with a purpose she had never seen, a blade finally freed from its scabbard. Natalie stood rooted to the spot, staring at the unfamiliar yet obviously expensive new car, at the man inside she had once mocked without restraint. A tidal wave of humiliation and regret surged through her. Gideon saw her too. His gaze rested on her for a single second. No mockery, no pity, no hatred, only a pure, detached calm, as though she were a stranger of no consequence. Then he looked away, as if he had merely glanced at a tree by the roadside, eased onto the accelerator, and drove off. In that instant Natalie finally understood. Between them, the gulf was already sky-high and earth-low. She no longer even qualified to be hated by him. 10. While Initech crumbled, a new firm named Value Synergy hung its shingle in a premier downtown high-rise. The opening ceremony was quietly lavish. No press, no fanfare, only the founding team, the first core employees, and the principals or representatives of those 120 Emerys. The company's first contracts were all 120 Emery accounts, transferred seamlessly as if only the wire routing number had changed. Gideon, now a founding partner, stepped to the podium. He wore a tailored suit and the same familiar rimless glasses, but his aura had utterly shifted. He was no longer the account manager masking awkwardness with smiles, he was a strategist commanding the whole field. I won't waste words on past grudges, his voice carried through the microphone. I speak only of the future. At Value Synergy we worship one creed: create real value for clients and let every value creator share in the return. No office politics, no seniority games, no gaslighting scripts dressed up as motivation. Only transparent project dividends and a partner track open to the best. Every ounce of effort is measured, respected, cashed out. Applause thundered. Client delegates from across the country eyed him with approval and trust. The first employees he'd recruited glowed with excitement and hope. Business journalists soon labeled the rare restructuring a talent value revolution, dissecting the flaws of old platform models and the edge of the new partner system. Gideon's name appeared in mainstream finance pages for the first time, not as an office drone but as Charles of Value Synergy. He steered his own fate and opened the helm to others like him. Late at night he stood at a floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the city's endless lights. He sometimes recalled the $6,800 bonus. He was almost grateful for it. That sum had been a bucket of ice water, waking him for good, showing him who was truly worth trusting. The first quarter earnings blew past every forecast. At the victory banquet, Gideon raised his glass, confidence dancing in his smile. His era had arrived. 11. 6 months later, Initech filed for bankruptcy liquidation. Every asset under Victor's name was frozen and auctioned to repay bank loans and back wages. The man who once cruised in sports cars and VIP lounges became penniless overnight, saddled with six-figure personal debt. To survive, he took a waiter job at a nondescript diner, clearing plates and enduring the owner's shouts and customer scorn. One evening the ceiling TV aired a finance talk show. Charles, value synergy has become the industry benchmark within half a year. What's your secret? On screen, Gideon spoke with poised ease. Victor, holding a sizzling plate of boiling fish in chili oil, froze. He stared at the former subordinate turned celebrity mogul, then at his own greasy apron and chapped hands, the mighty CEO reduced to washing dishes. The contrast stabbed him like an ice pick. Only then did he grasp that what he had despised was not Gideon alone but value itself. He had mistaken the platform for talent, oppression for management, and in the end the value he scorned devoured everything he had. A sharp regret rose. He wanted to find Gideon and say he was sorry. He scrolled through his phone. No contact left. Even if there were, what face did he have to show? On a cold, rainy midnight he drifted to the foot of Value Synergy's tower. He looked up at the skyscraper, imagining the lights on the top floor that belonged to Gideon. He stood in the rain a long, long time, then hunched his shoulders and shuffled away into the wet darkness. Natalie fared no better. The stain on her resume refused to wash out. After countless rejections she landed a menial post at a no-name firm for 1/3 her old pay. She spent every day complaining, small platform, incompetent coworkers, blind bosses, blaming everyone, never herself. She checked Instagram obsessively, scrolling through ex-colleagues' updates. One day she saw a former teammate post photos of Value Synergy's island retreat, blue skies, white clouds, a luxury yacht, everyone's grin radiant, among them several former Initech engineers Gideon had later poached. Jealousy and remorse gnawed at her like vipers. Screaming and sobbing, she deleted every former coworker's contact one by one. 12. 1 year later, Value Synergy's annual gala filled the city's grandest hotel ballroom. The firm was now the undisputed industry benchmark, its footprint ever expanding, top talent pouring in. As the finale, Gideon took the stage to honor the year's best performers. Prizes included fat bonuses and stock options that set everyone's eyes on fire. The grand award topped 7 figures. When the young tech director received the trophy, Gideon lifted the mic. He surveyed the sea of eager young faces. I will never forget and will always remind myself what respect and reward a true fighter deserves. The hall erupted. Afterward Charles clinked glasses with him, clapping his shoulder. You did it. We did, Gideon corrected, and they shared a smile. He turned to the employees, laughing, dreaming, hustling for their futures. In them he saw the rookie he had once been, only they were luckier. They had chosen, and helped build, a place that knew how to honor value. The story ends with Gideon's smile. It holds release from the past, calm acceptance of success, and boundless hope for the future, silently proclaiming the simplest truth: real value may be dimmed for a moment, but it is never buried. It will return, stronger and brighter, to its rightful place.